Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Keim Report wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Ampire Media, Ampire. Always much appreciated when you tune in. And don't forget, you can read my work on ESPN.com. I have a couple stories up now about the Debo Samuel trade and just the ramifications for Washington and all that good stuff. So today I'm joined by former Washington Redskin head coach Jay Gruden because I wanted to talk to him about the Debo Samuel trade and just what he feels the impact is on Washington's offense, how he sees him being used, et cetera, what he feels he has left, et cetera. And I wanted to talk to Jay, first of all, because Jay's very smart about offense, but two, he had a quick posting on for his underdog fantasy, which he does. He had that on Twitter, on X, and just how much he liked the deal for Washington. So I wanted to kind of have talk to him and expand on that. And then also just talked a little bit about helping a quarterback grow after a rookie year like Jayden Daniels has. And, again, I've talked about this before, like all these other teams, like, oh, the defensive coordinator is going to look at him and do this and study him, blah, blah. Well, Washington's going to do the same, and they're going to improve the talent around him. And also, Jayden Daniels is as hard a worker in the film room, which is where it matters, as any young player that I've ever covered. So I think he'll be okay, but I wanted to get Jay's perspective on all of this. And so, so I'll get to that in a minute, but really there's not a whole lot else going on until they start signing guys. And obviously this is a week where you expect to have a lot of movement in some deals for guys returning. I know they want Zach Ertz back. I know they want Bobby Wagner back, and there are multiple other players in that situation. John Bates, the guy they'd love to have back, among others. So I think I would expect some of those to get done this week. I do think Bates will be a harder one than people might imagine, just because he does something that is not very available for a lot of teams, which is as a blocking tight end. Anyways, so we'll get whenever that news happens, we'll get that to you. Then also monitoring the John Allen situation. It still stands where it has been, that he's on the market. They're letting him seek trades if he can find one. I don't think he necessarily wants to go. I do think that teams are waiting for him to be cut, and then they would go pursue him. So we'll see what happens there. Anyways, that's it for now. Here's my conversation with former Washington Redskin head coach Jay Gruden. All right, Jay. Well, so you posted right away after Washington traded for Debo something on Underdog Fantasy. Just your thoughts on it. Good, quick analysis of it. Obviously, you seem to like the trade, but I am curious. So if you can expand a little bit on that, like first of all, why did you like the trade?
Well, it's a fifth round pick, number one. Okay. And you like to keep all your draft picks, that's for sure. There have been good players in the history of the NFL have been drafted in the fifth or sixth round. I get that. But to get a guy like Debo Samuel for a fifth round pick who brings a type of mentality of physicality to your football team, I think and production is a no-brainer. I know he's had some injuries, might have a little weight issues, supposedly people say. His production's gone down from time to time because of his injuries. But I think the upside with Debo, what he can bring to the football team, I said he doesn't need to be a 80 catch guy for
Right.
1,500 yards and have 40 or 50 carries and all that stuff like he did in 2021. He needs to be one of those guys that's a number two receiver behind Terry. Worked in between the numbers. The RPOs are going to be great with them. He can get the jet sweeps, which are a huge benefit. A guy that can run with the ball after the catch, is dynamic as he is with the ball in his hands, physical. Line him up at running back. A lot of things you can do with this guy, and I just think, and not to mention, he's one of the best blockers in football. So all the perimeter screens that Cliff Kingsbury likes to do, have him out there leading for Terry McLaurin or leading for Brian Robinson or Austin Eckler, whoever the heck the running back is or other receiver is. I think it's a perfect marriage for the two.
So, and you talk about this, like the weight issue, and then there was also the sideline shot of him kind of getting in one of his teammates' faces during game. How do you weigh all that? Like, because there's 6 years of other context to place with that, but how do you look at that? And when you get a guy like that, how, as a coach, how do you approach that?
Yeah, I remember interviewing Debo. He's a tough kid, man. His name is Debo for a reason, and he's a great competitor. And sometimes he gets his competitive juices a little too high. They get a little too warm. He needs to cool them down a little bit. But there's nothing wrong with having a great competitor on your team. And I think, actually they went out and signed Marshawn Lattimore. Is very similar.
Right.
He's got that hot head mentality, which you don't have too many of those guys, but not having any of them is a problem as well. You want these dogs on your football team, and Debo brings that mentality to the room. And Terry McLaurin he's a quiet assassin too. It's not
Yeah.
like he's a pussycat now. Terry McLaurin's tough son of a gun as well. So having those two guys in a room together will be fun to watch.
Well, it's funny because I was talking about that with someone else about Terry. That Terry's highly, highly competitive, and you see that intensity. He just does it in a different way. But when you have a couple guys out there like that who can do what they do, what does that add for an offense just from an energy standpoint?
It adds a lot. And Terry's a tough kid too when it comes to blocking and stuff.
Right.
And the 49ers, part of the success they had with McCaffrey and the years they had all those yards, they had Debo, Ayuk, Brandon Jennings, Juwan Jennings. I mean, these were three outstanding physical guys that could block on the perimeter for the running game, for the perimeter screen game. It makes it easy for quarterbacks like Brock Purdy, for Jayden Daniels to go back and throw a couple 1 yard flat routes with guys blocking in front of them, get 15, 20 yards on 3rd and 5 or 3rd and 8. It makes the game a little bit easier. Still going to be difficult, but having those guys that can do a lot of different things just helps out and it makes it a lot easier for the quarterback.
How much did you were able to watch him last year?
Debo,
Yeah.
he was in and out of the lineup a lot, and I know frustrations took place a little bit. And they didn't have McCaffrey, and Ayuk got hurt. He didn't have the type of year that obviously he wanted. But I don't think Debo is a true like number one guy. I think
Right.
Debo Samuel's more of a wild card chess piece guy where you move him in the backfield, you put him in a slot, you put him in motion, jet sweeps. Obviously, the perimeter screens for him, the unders, the slants. This guy still has a role in pro football, and it's a very expanded role, and it's a very important role. And when you don't have a guy like this, it makes it more difficult. When you throw Debo Samuels in as opposed to nothing against OZ or Jameson Crowder or anything like that. It's a little bit different. This is a physical, different mentality that you're going to add to your football team. And hopefully they get maybe somebody else back that can, pair up with the two of those guys, De'Ami Brown or whoever it might be, to throw 3 receivers out there, 4 receivers. But I don't see anything wrong with the game. I think health is the biggest concern for him moving forward. And, if he gets good in the weight program, which I know he will, he's a competitive guy. He'll get back into shape. He has a lot to prove. He's got 1 year left on his contract. There's a lot of money out there for Debo Samuel to
Right.
make if he can do what he's supposed to do, what he will do, what he should do.
And you brought up the RPOs and the quick game and all that. Why is he so effective in those situations?
Strong hands and physical after the catch. So you have to run through tacklers, and you can't be afraid to go in the middle of the field a lot of times. So yeah, he's got no fear. You see a lot of his highlight runs are the unders and the little slant
Right.
routes where he runs over people and takes a 5 yard pass and runs for 55 yards. And like I said, to have that element to your football team is critical. I mean, you can't just go out there and expect to get big plays throwing bombs all the time. You have to have some guys that can run after the catch. And having another guy like Debo and Terry McLaurin, you saw him run after the catch a lot of times last year, and guys like that are huge. I always was concerned about Washington's who else are they going to go to when
Right.
Terry gets doubled or what have you. And they found a way last year, but having known a guy like Debo, I think will help out a lot.
And I was going to ask you about the impact on Terry, whether it's from that or because they are different types of receivers. How much does that complement and balance what they do?
Oh, it complements a lot because he can do it's not just like he's an RP go or a jet sweep
Right.
guy. He can run the routes too. He can run the high crosses and the deep overs and the daggers and the ends and the curls and all that stuff. He's not relegated to being a little
Right.
chess piece move guy. He can do just about anything. The play action game with the 3 level throws, he can do all that stuff. So yeah, you figure if Terry McLaurin gets the double, they want to play quarter, half, and you want to attack the safeties. Debo's a guy that can do that still too. So yeah, health, obviously, weight. I
Right.
mean, production has decreased a little bit. There are some negatives, obviously, but I just think the positives and what he can bring to the football team. Like I said, I don't think Khalif Kingsbury and Dan Quinn expect this guy, and Adam Peters expects him to come in and catch 90 balls for 1,600 yards. You know what I mean? I think he's got a role that's going to be well defined, and I think he's going to be perfect for it.
I think if he were still at the 90 catch 1,600 yards, he's not on the market.
Yeah.
You know what I
Well,
mean?
you
So,
never know. Nobody
yeah.
really knows because he got
Well,
traded for a
that's
fifth, So
right.
yeah, I don't know how much they were shopping him around. Obviously, maybe they were, and maybe Washington was only a taker. People have concerns about his health, I think, and they're not willing to pay that type of price for a guy who's been oft injured. There's a lot to be said about that as well. But I think taking a chance with a fifth round pick, I think is a good move for Washington.
And how important, because obviously Adam Peters knows him very well. Anthony Lynn knows him very well. Is your experience as a coach, if you're Dan Quinn and you only know of him, you know some, but having guys who know him, how important would that be for you?
Well, that's huge because he has had some squabbles with the coaching staff and the front office about wanting to get traded. I want to get out of here. He's yelled at the kicker. We've seen all that. For Adam Peters to stick up for him, he's been there with them. he obviously knows what type of competitor he is. He wouldn't reach his neck out and try to get him on the football team if he's going to be a
Right,
problem for Dan Quinn.
right.
So Dan Quinn's kind of holding the cards right now. So I think Adam's going to try to make his job a lot easier. Adding a guy like Debo Samuel, I think it's a great move. Obviously, Adam knowing him, I think is really what I think sets the trade in Washington's favor. Just because his knowledge of Debo's background and what type of guy he is, bringing him to the football team to fit in with the culture that Dan's trying to bring, I think speaks volumes.
Then for you have Debo, you have Terry now. What else would you want at receiver for them? What kind of style?
Well, I think you can be, you can do a lot of different things. I'd like to get another guy that can really run. I think maybe on the outside, a guy, 6'1", 200-pound guy that can just run, vertical threat type guy. You know, so there's a lot of guys that they can get, but I think the most important thing for them to address now is fix the offensive line and make sure they know what they're doing at tight end. Is it going to be Zach Ertz? Is it, Sanat's there, but they really have to address a tight end situation. I'd like to get another piece at the running back position, somebody with a little bit more juice that can really strike fear into these defenses. Just another juice guy, I think, would be very beneficial. But as far as receivers concerned, I think there's a lot on the team, free agents that they had last year that could help them out. And then obviously in the draft, you can get somebody in the fourth and sixth and seventh round that I think can help out as well.
And does it matter to you? Like they don't have that big 6'3" guy at receiver. Does that matter to you, or does that like that? Those guys are hard to find who are highly productive. I know that, but do you care about that, or would you just say, hey, just get a guy who can play with some
Yeah,
size?
get a guy that's to play that can. I like a guy that can run. Obviously size and run. He'd
Right.
probably be a first
Yeah.
rounder, but
Exactly. Yeah.
they had Noah Brown last year. He was very productive. He was a big physical guy, and I liked his style because he was one of those guys who could block on the perimeter as well for the running game. I think number one, you have to make sure the guy fits into the mentality of the football team and what they're trying to do. Cliff wants to, if you want to be more of a running football team, you got to get a more physical guy in here to dig out the safeties. If you want to try to scare the hell out of defenses, make them play more cover two. You already got Terry. Now you got Debo. You add another one that can really run. That'll open up the running lanes where guys won't have to block safeties because they'll be too deep all the time. So it just depends on what they want. I think another guy that can work on the inside would be good, and maybe another outside guy that can really take the top off.
Would you bring back Ertz?
I would, yeah, for now, for sure. I think he still can play. Um, I don't think you want to go into the season, into the draft, bare naked, butt naked, without a
Right.
starting tight end. I know Sanat's got a little bit of ways to go. Bates, I think he's still a free agent, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so they have to address that. They have to make sure they have that covered at least in case the guy they want in the draft isn't there. Because in the first round, you're looking at two tight ends, I think, that are probably going to go in the first. After that, I think you'll be reaching for a starter of the caliber of Zach Ertz experience and understanding of the offense. I would love to see Zach Ertz come back and then maybe draft one in the third or fourth round that can develop with Sanat and just keep trying to build that position because that's one of the hardest positions to find in pro football, especially to draft in later rounds.
Right. And then Brandon Coleman is left tackle. There's still going to be talk about that. And if they sign one, they could always push him inside. If they don't, they could get someone else. How did you, when you were able to watch him, did you, what did you think of him at left tackle?
I was impressed what he did as a rookie. He's thrust into the lineup, and I think he did some good things. Moving forward, is he the future left tackle for many, many years? That's something that Adam and Cliff and Coach Quinn have to decide. There are a couple free agents out there that could really help. Ronnie Stanley, obviously, he would solidify the left tackle spot for a while. He's a great player. If you get somebody like that, obviously, I would consider moving them inside. If not, you go into the draft and see who's out there. Maybe you upgrade the interior part of it. You got Cosme, he's coming off an injury, right? Uh, and uh, and if you can get another left tackle, move Brandon inside the left guard. Grady didn't do a terrible job, and like
No.
like like he wasn't terrible. So
Right.
if you go status quo right now, obviously it's not the end of the world because they played pretty good at times. That whole offensive line unit did, but I would like to upgrade somewhere, preferably on the interior, or get a dynamic left tackle like a proven left tackle and move
Right.
Coleman possibly inside.
Right. And I also agree with you with running back. And I think that's where they'll look at one in the draft. With Jayden, there's going to be a lot of talk this year, of course, about like, oh, coordinators are going to study him and you're going to, you saw what happened with CJ Stroud last year. I don't think it's as simple as to say it's a sophomore slump. But as a coach on the offensive side, what would you be doing now to offset what coordinators, defensive coordinators might be doing as far as like planning to attack Jayden next year.
Well, you have to keep getting better around him. Number one, you can't just think you're going to go status quo and you never stay the same, John. You either get better or worse, and that's not just for Jayden. That's for the whole team around him. Offensive line, we just talked about possibly upgrading that. Tight end, Zach Ertz, we got to possibly upgrade that. We got like to get another back in here that can really do something on the perimeter between whatever it might be to help B-Rob out if B-Rob's not the answer. Eckler's getting a little bit older. We mentioned Debo Samuel already. And then Jayden's development will continue to get better. I think he's going to work hard with Cliff and continue to build off what he did very well, which is a lot. I mean, there's a lot of things that he did well, whether it's running the football or throwing the football, quick game, drop back, RPOs, zone reads. Yeah, there's really nothing that he didn't do well. So I think you just continue to expand on what he did well and then try to add a few things from a personnel standpoint, from a formation standpoint, motion standpoint, all that. Just continue to add more to his plate without overwhelming him. Just remember, he's only in year 2. Can't go crazy, but I think you just continue to expand on what he's done well and just continue to feature him and make him comfortable.
In general, when you see a young guy like that who had this kind of, I mean, it's an unusually good year, but what's the biggest jump typically for first to second year for a quarterback?
I think that's the most important year. They're all important, but to see the progression from year 1 to year 2 to year 3, when they see the speed of the game and how they handle it and how they handle the adjustments of the defensive coordinators and what people are trying to do against them. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see. I think he set such a high standard already as a rookie that it's going to be hard to duplicate. But I said, if anybody can do it, I think Jayden can, just because the skill set is just perfect for the NFL type football, what's happening right now with all the quarterback design runs, the zone reads, the bubble screens, and the quick elements of the game. He's got the quick trigger. He's got the accuracy. He's got the athleticism. He's got all the traits that make a successful quarterback. Now you just have to continue to make sure you don't sit on your laurels. You make sure you just continue to fire fastballs and try to get people around him better. Make sure he's surrounded by the right people and fix the defense a little bit. We can't expect him to score 45 points a game every week, So a lot of things can be done to help him around him, but I think Jayden himself will continue to focus on his fundamentals, number one. Obviously, studying the playbook and studying defenses, understanding blitz packages. That'll continue to get better and more. It'll become more at ease for him at the line of scrimmage come year 2 and year 3.
And what would two more things? What do you think defensive coordinators are going to try and do to take him away? Because watching him, it's not like there was like some unusual stuff. He was good at processing. He was good at this. He was good at that. So what do you think they could try to do to maybe defend him better?
I don't know. I've seen teams try to blitz him and he handles it fine. I've seen teams try to drop 8 and play eyeballs on him and he plays that fine. I think I'd probably err on the side of more zone drops and try to have as many eyeballs on him as possible because of his ability to run. Until the running game really strikes fear in me, I'm not going to worry about the run game so much. I'd play more quarters, cover 2, quarter, half, whatever it might be. Try to disguise coverages, cover 3, different types of cover 3s. And then if the running game starts hurting me, then I got to become more aggressive with some single high stuff and blitzes and all that stuff. But yeah, I'm trying to get as many eyeballs on this guy as I can because of all the different RPOs, the options, and the quarterback design runs.
Last thing, Myles Garrett, do you think the Browns trade him? And if you're this team, how aggressive would you be trying to get him?
I would be very aggressive, really. Obviously the price might be a little bit too high for what they're willing to give, but if you look around the league, the true pass rushing monsters are few and far between, right? I mean, you got Myles Garrett, you probably got TJ Watt, Abdul Carter coming out. He'll probably be one of them, but there aren't many of them that really you're saying, holy shit, we got to chip this guy. We got to play. Micah Parsons might be one. There's not many of them. So if you have a chance to get a premier pass rusher like that, to add to the inside of your defense would be pretty beneficial. And it's something that would be hard to pass up, in my opinion, just because if you look at the draft after Abdul Carter, there's a couple athletic guys that aren't very productive, but they're big, got the size. Other free agents, you got Khalil Mack, who's a little bit older. Just not a lot of guys out there that can really impact the football game like a Myles Garrett can. So it'd be something to consider for sure.
And then tell people where they can get you, because you're doing a lot of stuff for Underdog. You can be doing a lot of stuff for the draft, I assume, again this year.
Yeah, we'll be doing stuff. We're on a YouTube channel called Clean Pocket. So yeah, log on there, hit like and subscribe, and we'll come up. Me, Colt McCoy, Justin Pugh, and AQ Shipley.
Awesome. Good stuff, Jay. Thanks a lot.
Right.
As always.
Thanks, John. You got it.
That's it for this episode. Thanks to Jay for joining me, and thank you, as always, for tuning in. I'll be back on Thursday with another episode, barring any sort of big news happening before then. I'll talk to you next time.